Hello and welcome to another episode of Plant Culture. In this episode, we'll talk about the history and use of the damask rose. We'll start with the archaeobotanical evidence from the Minoan era. Then we'll talk about the early literature regarding damask roses, followed by the spread of damask roses as a perfume plant and ornamental, and finally conclude with its genetic origins. In a fresco in the Palace of Knossos in Crete that dates back to 3700 BP approximately, Sir Arthur Evans found a painting of a rose on one of the fragments of said fresco. Although modern reproductions make the flowers look yellow, the original was pink. Dr. C.C. Hurst believed that it bore a striking resemblance to the Holy Rose of Abyssinia, and identified that rose as a hybrid called Rosa X Richardi, which is also speculated to be of the same genetic stock as Rosa damascena, and it's also speculated that it may have been introduced to Ethiopia, where it's currently grown beside churches, although how it happened remains unknown. Remains of this hybrid are also found in a cemetery in Lower Egypt that date around the 1st century AD. The earliest known writings about damask roses are found in the Syrian cuneiform tablets that date around 4200 BP, although it's still debated, since the Assyrian word for rose is not fully understood, whether or not the tablet refers to a rose or a black mustard plant. The first known time period with a fully known writing about roses was by Herodotus around 500 BC. Herodotus mentions that King Midas grew a type of rose that had many petals, up to 20 in number. A similar writing was made by Theophrastus around 300 BC, where he also described many different types of roses, including one that had 20 petals. Again, a trait found in the damask rose. Theophrastus also made use of roses in combination with other ingredients to make special oils, when describing how this rose was used in India. Dioscorides described the use of damask roses as well. The Romans continued this tradition of using roses as medicine and as ornamentals, with Pliny creating 32 different remedies involving roses, including damask roses. Julius Caesar was also known to order many roses from Egypt for perfume making, and it was speculated to be the damask rose, or Rosa X bifera, a possible intermediary between the wild form and the damask rose. Now on to the history of rosewater. The discovery of rosewater was not recorded in history, but the earliest known reference comes from the writer Ibn Khaldun, which stated that the province of Farstan in Iran was required to give 30,000 bottles of rosewater annually to the Caliph in Baghdad in the years 810 to 817 AD. It was also mentioned that it was exported to China and throughout the Islamic world as well. The earliest known European reference to rosewater was La Chandier de Harab, written in 961 AD, which recommended that rosewater be prepared in April. In the 10th century AD, the Moors probably brought the rosewater methods to Spain alongside their territorial expansion. Based on current evidence, independent developments where both the European and Arab world developed their own techniques to produce rose attar to create rose oil. The first known European to do this was Geronimo Rossi of Ravenna in 1574, and during the 1600s, this distillation was used extensively in German apothecaries. For the Arab world, it was mentioned by the writer Manusi in 1680, who mentioned that during the time period of the Grand Moguls, which lasted between 1525 to 1667, a figure called Muhammad Achem worked with Indians to produce rose attar, and that knowledge was then sent to Persia in 1612. After the creation of rose oil, or attar, it became quickly popular by the end of the 1600s, with Iran becoming a primary producer of roses for rose oil, which was then spread from the east and west from Persia. And from there, the Turkish people, the Russians, the Ukrainians, the Romanians, and the Bulgarians have adopted the use of rose oil. And you already know which and the primary rose used to make rose oil was Rosa damascena, and various types were also grown in India as well. The place Iran held as the reigning champion of rose oil production was usurped when Damask roses were introduced to Israel. This fad, however, ended, and by the 1800s, the roses were stopped being harvested, and the Israeli cultivars of damask rose had long since gone wild and become feral plants. Baron E. Rothschild later made an attempt to re-establish the modern rose industry, but failed due to new pathogens and manufacturing troubles. And as of right now, roses are primarily grown for cut flowers in Israel. Now on to the genetic origins of this species. Based on genetics and the work of Theophrastus, who said that growing roses from seeds is a bad news bear situation, and great variability in quality happens from the seeds, it is likely that it's a hybrid origin plant. The first guess at the origins of Rosa damascena was that it was an ancient crossbreed between Rosa gallica and Rosa canina. However, Rosa canina is a pentaploid having an odd number of chromosome pairs, 5 in total, which made that hypothesis ill-advised, although Rosa gallica was likely one of the parents due to the existing genetic evidence. Dr. C.C. Hurst later proposed two other explanations of the origin of the damask rose. He proposed that it was a crossbreed between Rosa gallica and Rosa moschetta to make the hybrid Rosa bicura, which was then used to breed Rosa damascena. He also made another hypothesis, which was it was a hybrid between Rosa moschetta and Rosa phoenica. Based on the work by Dr. Huxley in 1992, it was confirmed that Rosa damascena was a complex hybrid rose made from the convergence of 3 different species, Rosa gallica, Rosa moschetta, and Rosa phoenica, now known as Rosa fedoscialocoena, which I'll call Rosa phoenica because it's easier. Well, that about covers everything. Thank you for watching. Thank you for watching this video. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to me on BitChute for a greater variety of content, 4 videos a week. And thank you to all my subscribers on both platforms. I appreciate it.